Call of the Wild by Jack London. Call of the Wild follows the story of Buck, a domesticated dog who is stolen from his comfortable life in California and sold into the harsh world of the Klondike Gold Rush. Forced to work as a sled dog, Buck faces the brutal realities of survival in the wild. Over time, Buck's primitive instincts awaken, and he becomes more attuned to the call of the wilderness. After his final owner, John Thornton, is killed, Buck fully embraces his wild nature, joining a wolf pack and becoming a legend of the wilderness. The novel explores themes of survival, instinct, and the conflict between civilization and nature. Let's deep dive into the book. Buck's life in California. The novel begins with Buck, a large and powerful dog, living a comfortable life as a pet on Judge Miller's estate in California. Buck is a mix of St. Bernard and Scotch Collie, and he enjoys his privileged existence, free from hardship or struggle. However, this idyllic life is soon disrupted when Buck is stolen by a gardener's helper looking to make a quick profit. Buck is sold into the brutal world of the Klondike Gold Rush, where strong sled dogs are in high demand. This marks the beginning of Buck's journey from a pampered pet to a creature of the wild. Buck's introduction to the wild. Buck is shipped to the north, where he is introduced to the harsh realities of life as a sled dog. He is sold to a pair of French-Canadian dispatchers, Perrault and Francois, who treat him relatively well, but the cold, violent world of the north forces Buck to adapt quickly. He witnesses the brutal killing of a fellow dog, Curly, and learns the law of club and fang, the brutal rules that govern survival in the wilderness. Buck begins to shed his domesticated nature as he adjusts to his new life, where only the strongest survive. Buck's rise to leadership. As Buck becomes more experienced in the sled dog team, he starts to challenge the lead dog, Spitz, a fierce and cunning animal who has ruled the team through fear. Tensions between Buck and Spitz grow, culminating in a fierce battle between the two dogs. Buck ultimately triumphs, defeating Spitz and taking his place as the leader of the team. Buck's victory over Spitz marks a turning point in his transformation from a domesticated pet to a dominant wild animal. He proves to be an exceptional leader, guiding the team with strength and intelligence as they continue their grueling work in the wilderness. The brutality of life in the north. As the team journeys across the frozen landscape, Buck encounters the harsh realities of the wild. The work is exhausting, and the dogs are often pushed to their limits. After Perrault and Francois sell the team to a mail carrier, the dogs are forced to pull heavy loads over long distances, leaving them worn out and weak. Eventually, Buck and the other dogs are sold to inexperienced gold seekers, Hal, Charles, and Mercedes. This trio of inept owners mistreats the dogs, overloading the sled and failing to properly feed and care for them. Buck's survival instincts become sharper as he struggles against these new challenges. John Thornton's rescue. Buck's fortunes change when John Thornton, a seasoned outdoorsman, saves him from certain death at the hands of Hal, Charles, and Mercedes. Buck's previous owners, blinded by greed and ignorance, continue their ill-fated journey, but they and the remaining dogs perish when they fall through thin ice. Meanwhile, under Thornton's care, Buck experiences kindness and love for the first time since leaving Judge Miller's estate. He forms a deep bond with Thornton, becoming fiercely loyal to the man who saved his life. This bond, however, is complicated by Buck's growing connection to the wild and his desire to answer the call of the wilderness. The call of the wild grows stronger. Despite his love for Thornton, Buck begins to feel an irresistible pull toward the wild. He starts spending more time in the forest, hunting and exploring the wilderness. Buck encounters a wolf and feels a kinship with the animal, further intensifying his desire to abandon civilization and embrace his wild instincts. However, Buck continues to return to Thornton, torn between his loyalty to his human companion and the call of the wild. The wilderness beckons to Buck, awakening ancient instincts that have long been dormant. Buck's final break with civilization. Tragedy strikes when John Thornton and his companions are killed by a group of Native Americans. Buck returns from one of his excursions into the wild to find Thornton dead. With nothing left to tie him to the world of humans, Buck finally answers the call of the wild fully. He attacks the Native Americans who killed Thornton, avenging his beloved master's death. After this final break with civilization, Buck joins a wolf pack and becomes its leader, embracing his destiny as a creature of the wild. Buck's life as a wild animal. In the final chapters, Buck fully integrates into the wilderness. He leads the wolf pack, becoming a legendary figure known to the Native Americans as the ghost dog. Buck's transformation from a domesticated pet to a wild, untamed animal is complete. He is no longer bound by the rules of human society, but instead follows the laws of nature. Buck thrives in his new environment, using the strength and instincts he developed throughout his journey to survive and lead. The theme of survival of the fittest. One of the central themes of Call of the Wild is the idea of survival of the fittest. Throughout the novel, Buck must adapt to the harsh, unforgiving environment of the North in order to survive. His journey reflects the brutal realities of life in the wild, where only the strongest and most resourceful creatures thrive. The novel explores how Buck's inherent strength, intelligence, and instincts allow him to rise above the challenges he faces, while weaker animals and humans perish. The Call of the Wild as a symbol. The Call of the Wild in the novel represents the pull of Buck's ancestral instincts and his return to his natural state as a wild animal. It symbolizes the struggle between civilization and the primal instincts that lie dormant within every creature. For Buck, the call becomes stronger as he spends more time in the wilderness, and it ultimately leads him to embrace his true nature. London uses Buck's transformation to explore the themes of nature versus nurture and the irresistible force of instinct in the face of civilization. Let's meet together the main characters of the book. Buck is the protagonist of Call of the Wild. A large, powerful dog, Buck starts the novel living a comfortable, domesticated life in California. After being stolen and sold into the harsh world of the Klondike, Buck gradually transforms into a fierce, independent animal driven by instinct and survival. He rises to leadership in the sled dog pack and ultimately embraces his wild nature. Buck's journey from a pampered pet to the leader of a wolf pack symbolizes his return to his natural state and the awakening of his primal instincts. John Thornton is Buck's final and most compassionate owner. A seasoned outdoorsman, Thornton saves Buck from being killed by his previous owners and nurses him back to health. Thornton forms a deep bond with Buck, treating him with kindness and love. Their relationship becomes one of mutual loyalty and respect. However, despite Buck's devotion to Thornton, his pull toward the wild grows stronger. Thornton's death at the hands of Native Americans is a turning point for Buck, leading him to fully embrace the call of the wild and return to his primal roots. Spitz is Buck's rival and the lead sled dog at the beginning of the novel. He is fierce, cunning, and rules the pack through intimidation and fear. Spitz and Buck clash as Buck challenges Spitz's dominance, ultimately leading to a deadly battle between the two. Buck defeats Spitz in a brutal fight, killing him and taking over as the lead dog. Spitz represents the harsh realities of survival in the wilderness, and his defeat marks a significant moment in Buck's rise to leadership and mastery of his instincts. Hal, Charles, and Mercedes are inexperienced gold seekers who purchase Buck and his sled team during their journey through the Klondike. They are portrayed as incompetent and cruel, overloading the sled and failing to properly care for the dogs. Their ignorance and greed lead to the death of most of the sled team, and they meet their own end when they perish after falling through thin ice. The trio symbolizes the dangers of hubris and the harsh consequences of being unprepared for the wilderness. Perrault and Francois are the French-Canadian dispatchers who initially purchased Buck for their sled team. They are experienced and knowledgeable about the demands of the wilderness, treating Buck and the other dogs fairly and with respect. Under their care, Buck begins to learn the harsh realities of life in the wild. Perrault and Francois serve as competent figures who help Buck transition from his domesticated life to the brutal world of the North. Let's explore together the main themes and concepts of the book. Survival of the fittest. The novel explores the theme of survival of the fittest, particularly through Buck's journey. As he is thrust into the harsh wilderness of the Klondike, Buck must adapt, using his strength, intelligence, and instincts to survive. He learns the law of club and fang, recognizing that only the strongest and most cunning animals will thrive in the brutal environment. Buck's transformation from a domesticated pet to a wild animal underscores this theme as he becomes a leader and survives in a world governed by instinct and power. The call of the wild and primal instincts. Buck's gradual shift from a domesticated dog to a wild creature illustrates the theme of primal instincts. Throughout the novel, Buck feels an increasing pull towards the wild as his ancestral memories and instincts awaken. This call of the wild becomes a metaphor for the inner nature of all beings, urging them to return to their roots. The theme emphasizes the tension between civilization and nature, with Buck eventually embracing his natural wild state and fulfilling his destiny as a creature of the wilderness. The struggle between civilization and wilderness. Call of the Wild presents a stark contrast between civilization and the wilderness. Buck's early life in California represents comfort, order, and domestication, while the North symbolizes chaos, survival, and primal freedom. As Buck transitions from the domesticated world to the wild, he faces a constant struggle between his past life with humans and his growing desire to embrace his wild instincts. This theme highlights the conflict between human-imposed structures of civilization and the raw, untamed forces of nature. The bond between humans and animals. The relationship between Buck and John Thornton showcases the deep bond that can form between humans and animals. Thornton saves Buck from certain death, and Buck, in turn, becomes fiercely loyal to him. This relationship reflects the capacity for mutual respect, trust, and love between species. However, despite their bond, Buck ultimately chooses to return to the wild after Thornton's death, indicating that while these bonds are significant, they are ultimately secondary to Buck's true nature and destiny. Adaptation and transformation. Buck's journey in Call of the Wild is one of transformation. Taken from a comfortable life and thrown into the brutal North, Buck must adapt to survive. He learns to navigate the wild, becoming more in tune with his instincts, shedding his domesticated past. His transformation is not just physical, but mental and emotional, as he gradually becomes a creature of the wild. The theme of adaptation emphasizes the importance of change in response to challenging environments, showing how beings evolve to fit their surroundings. Let's talk about the author. Jack London, born in 1876, was an American novelist, journalist, and social activist known for his adventure stories set in the wilderness. His most famous works include The Call of the Wild and White Fang, both of which explore themes of survival, nature, and the primal instincts of animals and humans. London drew inspiration from his own experiences during the Klondike Gold Rush and his love for the outdoors. His writing often reflects a fascination with the natural world and the struggle for survival in harsh environments. London remains one of America's most celebrated authors of adventure fiction, and his works continue to resonate with readers today. Sincere thanks for watching. If you found this summary helpful, consider taking a moment to hit the subscribe button, like or share the video. If you have any feedbacks or book requests, make sure to leave a comment. Regardless, I wish you a great day.